Today we will see Newton's law of motion. First law of motion is an object at rest will stay at rest and an object in motion will stay in motion at constant velocity unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. See in this slide, here shown some pictures of Newton's first law. In first picture, ball remains at a rest until we cannot apply the force. In second picture, when we apply the force on a ball, then it moves. Next, an object in motion will continue with a constant speed and it takes direction whenever we apply the force. In last picture, unless acted on by unbalanced force, then only object can move or it takes motion. Newton's first law is also called as law of inertia. Inertia is the tendency of an object to resist changes in its velocity, whether in motion or motionless. Some examples are here. When we shaken the tree, it moves. Fruit also moves from the tree, but fruit tries to remain at rest because it has a inertia. They cannot fall on the ground. When they fall, then when we shaken the tree, at that time the part in between the branch and the tree breaks and then it falls. This is the one type of example of inertia. In second example, in carom board, while playing carom, striker hits the disc. The disc which is present at the downside, that first strikes and upper disc remains at rest due to inertia. So this is the another example of inertia. And inertia is also called as first law. Newton's second law. Produced by a net force acting on an object is directly proportional to the magnitude of the net force is in the same direction as the net force and is inversely proportional to the mass of the object. Now see the example of second law. Suppose we taken one brick and we given a force of one hand on a one brick. Our force of hand accelerates the brick. It gets moved. But in second picture, whenever we apply the force of two hands on one brick, at that time it accelerates more because force is a more. In next picture, see here two bricks, two hands. Here also we are applying a pressure and the bricks accelerates whenever we apply the pressure on both the hands. So is the force more acceleration. Means whenever the force we are applying on one object, it accelerates, and whenever we applying more force on same object, it accelerates more. That is the second law. Means the second law of motion states that acceleration is produced when an unbalanced force acts on an object. Now Newton's third law. In nature, force cannot act alone. Force is a reciprocal action between two objects. Forces are always applied in pairs. When one object applies a force on another object, the latter object also simultaneously applies a force on the former object. These forces between two objects are always equal and opposite. And here we states the third law. For every action has an equal and opposite reaction force which acts simultaneously. The examples of third law. Now see in this picture, one example is of gun. During gunfire, bullet goes front side, but gun comes backwards. Means our force is at a front side. Bullet also creates force on a gun, so it recoil the gun. So this is the one example of third law. Another example is of rocket. See here. Now the third example of one boat. Here in boat, when the man jumps, at that time boat goes front side. When man is putting his force on the other side. So here also example of the action force equal to the opposite reaction force. So these are the examples of Newton's third law.